Didn't notice it at first because it was so faint that it almost blended into the normal sounds of the apartment, like the hum of the AC or the occasional creak of the building settling at night. But once I heard it clearly, I couldn't unhear it. And that's when everything started to feel wrong. It was around 1:50 in the morning, and I was lying in bed scrolling on my phone when I heard what sounded like someone whispering. Not talking, not having a conversation, just whispering. I remember pausing whatever I was doing and sitting completely still, trying to figure out where it was coming from, because it wasn't loud enough to be in the room, but it wasn't distant either. It sounded close, like it was coming from inside the walls. I got up slowly and walked around my room, trying to pinpoint it, and that's when I realized it was coming from the air vent above my bed. I stood there for a second, staring at it, trying to convince myself it had to be noise from another apartment traveling through the vents, which is something I'd heard can happen in older buildings. But the more I listened, the less that explanation made sense. The whispering didn't sound like random noise. It sounded intentional, like someone was speaking quietly on purpose. I grabbed a chair and stood on it, getting closer to the vent, holding my breath so I could hear better. That's when the whispering stopped. Completely. The silence hit instantly. Like whatever was making that sound knew I was listening. I stayed there for a few seconds waiting for it to start again, but it didn't eventually. I told myself I was overthinking it and went back to bed. The next night, it happened again. Same time, same faint whispering. This time, I didn't get up right away. I just lay there, listening, trying to catch words, trying to understand what was being said, but it was too quiet, too distorted. It didn't sound like a normal voice. It sounded wrong. Like the tone was slightly off, almost mechanical, but not quite. After a few minutes, I got up again, slowly this time, trying not to make noise and move toward the vent. The whispering continued for a few seconds longer than before, and then, just as I got close, it stopped again. That's when I started feeling uneasy. It didn't feel random anymore. It felt reactive, like it was stopping because of me. Over the next few nights, it became a pattern, always around the same time. Always from the vent, and always stopping the moment I tried to listen too closely. I stopped sleeping properly after that. I'd stay awake, waiting for it, dreading it, but also needing to hear it again just to confirm it was real. Then one night it changed. Instead of stopping when I got close, it got louder. Not by much, but enough that I could finally make out a few words. And what I heard made my stomach drop. It was my name, whispered over and over. Quiet, almost breathless, but clear enough that there was no mistaking it. I froze right there, standing on the chair, staring into the vent, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I didn't move. I didn't say anything. I just listened as it repeated my name again, slightly distorted, like it was struggling to pronounce it properly. I don't know how long I stood there, but eventually it stopped again. That was the last night I stayed in that apartment. I left the next morning, didn't even pack everything, just grabbed what I needed and stayed with a friend. A week later, I went back with the landlord to get the rest of my stuff. Before leaving, I asked him if anyone had access to the vents, if maintenance or anyone could get in there. He looked confused and told me the vents were too narrow for anyone to crawl through, and that they didn't connect directly between units anyway. Then he said something that I still think about. He told me the previous tenant had moved out suddenly. Said she complained about hearing things in the walls. I didn't ask any more questions after that. I didn't want to know. Story 2. The same video, this started as something small. Something I could easily ignore if I wanted to. But the problem is that I didn't ignore it. And the more I paid attention, the worse it got. It was a normal night. I was just at home watching videos on my laptop, nothing unusual, just letting autoplay run while I half paid attention. At some point I noticed a video in the recommended section that looked familiar. It had a thumbnail of a dark hallway and a title that I was sure I had already seen before. I didn't think much of it at first. YouTube recommends the same stuff all the time, so I just clicked it anyway. The video started playing, and within a few seconds I realized I had definitely seen it before. Same intro, same narration, same visuals. So I closed it. But a few minutes later, it showed up again. Same thumbnail, same title. That's when I started paying attention. I clicked it again just to confirm, and it played exactly the same way. I checked the upload date. It said it had been uploaded that same day. That didn't make sense. I knew I had seen it before. I even remembered specific parts of it. I shrugged it off again, thinking maybe I was mixing it up with something similar, but then it happened again the next night. Same video, same thumbnail, same title, still showing as newly uploaded. This time I watched it more carefully, and that's when I noticed something different. Near the end of the video, there was a scene I didn't remember. It was brief, maybe just a few seconds, showing a hallway with a door at the end. The camera slowly moved forward, and just before it cut to black, the door opened slightly. I didn't think much of it at the time, but the next night, when the video appeared again, that scene had changed. The door was open wider. I replayed it multiple times, trying to convince myself I was imagining it, but I wasn't. It was different. Over the next few days, the video kept reappearing, always marked as new, always slightly different. The hallway scene kept progressing. The door kept opening more each time. And then, one night, it was fully open. I remember feeling this strange sense of dread as I watched it, like I knew something was about to happen. The camera moved forward into the room beyond the door, and for the first time, there was something inside. A room that looked almost identical to mine. Same layout, same furniture. And in the video, someone was sitting at the desk, facing away from the camera. I paused it immediately. My heart was racing. I slowly looked up from the screen, and across my room, at my desk, it was empty. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I tried to find the video again, but it was gone. Completely gone. No history. No trace. Like it had never existed. I checked everything: watch history, search history, even tried looking it up manually, but nothing came up. That should have been the end of it. But that night, around the same time, I heard something. A sound behind me. I turned slowly toward my desk, and for a split second, I thought I saw something move. Story 3. The second set of keys. I live alone, and I always have, which means I'm very aware of my surroundings, especially when it comes to things like doors, locks, and anything that could suggest someone else has access to my space. So when I first noticed the keys, I thought it was just a mistake. I keep my keys on a small table near the entrance, always in the same spot, and one morning, when I went to grab them, there were 2 sets instead of 1. At first, I assumed I must have left a spare there and forgotten about it, even though that didn't really make sense because I don't use spare keys. But it was the easiest explanation, so I didn't question it too much. I just picked up my keys and left. When I came back that night, the second set was gone. Completely gone. That's when I started feeling uneasy. I checked the entire apartment, every room, every corner, but there was no sign of anyone being there. Nothing out of place. Everything exactly how I left it. I told myself I must have been mistaken. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe I was just tired. But then it happened again. A few days later, I came home, and there were 2 sets of keys on the table. Same position. Same placement. Like someone had carefully arranged them. This time, I didn't touch them right away. I just stood there, staring, trying to understand what I was looking at. I knew for a fact I only owned 1 set. I knew it. I even checked my pockets to make sure I wasn't holding another one without realizing it. I wasn't. After a few minutes, I picked them up. Both sets were identical. Same keychain. Same keys. No difference at all. That's when it stopped feeling like a mistake. It felt intentional. That night I locked the door, double-checked everything, and stayed awake. Around 3 a.m. I heard something. A faint metallic sound, like keys being placed on a surface. I froze. The sound came from the entrance. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. After a few seconds, it stopped. Silence. I forced myself to get up and walk toward the table. slowly, carefully, and when I got there were two sets of keys again. I didn't stay after that. I grabbed my things and left immediately. I stayed with a friend for a few days, trying to figure out what to do, trying to come up with any logical explanation, but nothing made sense. Eventually, I went back during the day to get the rest of my stuff. Before leaving, I checked the locks. That's when I noticed something I hadn't before. The lock on the inside of the door had scratches around it, like it had been used repeatedly from the outside. I changed apartments that week. New locks. New place. But every now and then, when I come home, I still check the table first, just to make sure there's only one set of keys.